All right, so what do we know about receivers? They're divas, sure, but they always think they're open. No different for a guy like A.J. Brown, right, on the Eagles, a team that relied heavily on the run last year, but this season, with a seemingly more balanced attack, has not utilized their top wideout from a year ago. Now, A.J. Brown, whose Instagram handle is literally 1K always open, had only 2 catches for 13 yards on Monday Night Football. He currently has 31 catches for just over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. That all puts him on pace to finish with just over 800 receiving yards this season, which would be a career low. So 1K always open is annoyed, and kind of for good reason. He's an elite talent being underutilized, but going public with it on various platforms is kind of getting tough to defend, right? Yesterday, a streaming video surfaced of Brown telling a streamer to get rid of him if he's on his fantasy team, and that the Eagles are currently the best team in the NFC. So the very calm and understanding fans in Philadelphia want to know, what's up with all this, AJ?
In that moment where I'm just talking to my friend, having fun with my friend, I'm not apologizing for that. Like I said, because if you have eyes, you can see that. And so, it's not that I was throwing anybody on the bus. I'm literally trying to laugh through this. It's tough. But I'm trying to make fun of the situation and to try to get through it. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. It's not about we're not winning or I don't care about winning. All I care about is stats. No. It's been week after week sometimes. We're not contributing. We're not doing our job on offense. So you can't just keep slapping the Band-Aid over that. And if you expect to win late in the year and you think you're going to go to it at the end of the year, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And last year, what it was, thank you for the ring, but it's a new season. They adapted. We have to adapt, and we have to continue to, get better and try to find new ways.
All right, Mina Kimes, what did you make of A.J. Brown's response to what happened on this streaming video? And do you think that his frustrations could derail what the Eagles' plans are of running it back in the Super Bowl?
I mean, listening to him talk there, he sounds right to me, is my reaction. And that's obviously separate from what he says on social or on streaming, which is his whole other thing. But what I heard there, him talking about the offense and their inconsistency and how last year is not this year and how they need to be better, that's all true. It's all the stuff that we're saying on, TV every week. So I'm not going to criticize him for that. He is also correct in couching it as a team-wide issue. He's not blaming the quarterback. He's not saying everything would be better if I would be targeted more. I think it's an accurate characterization of what has been a frustratingly inconsistent offense. When I watched the Eagles against the Packers, I'm not watching that offense thinking they're failing because A.J. Brown is a diva or A.J. Brown isn't giving effort. In fact, the 2 most explosive pass plays in that game outside of the Saquon catch and run happened because of all the defensive attention paid to A.J. Brown. Now, as to whether or not it'll derail the season, at this point, I'm saying no, but I'm not in that locker room. I don't know how bad it is. But it is not manifesting on the football field in a way where A.J. Brown is even close to the top of the reasons why this offense is struggling. A.J. Brown isn't running the ball inefficiently. A.J. Brown isn't struggling with fire zones at times and beating split safety looks. So I'm not concerned about it. And I actually think his explanation there was extremely valid.
Stephen A., what do you think? Do you think Brown's frustrations will derail the Eagles' Super Bowl hopes?
I just think they're too mature as a team. I think that to derail it because of his comments or because of his attitude. Their play ultimately will do the talking, and they're either going to be efficient or not. But I don't think the efficiency or lack thereof is going to be because of anything he says. And I certainly don't think it's going to be because of a lack of ability and commitment on his part or that of Jalen Hurts or Devontae Smith or anybody else. Here's what I would like to say, especially to Dan and RC, and Mina, I appreciate where you're coming from, and I agree with you. And we all agreed that we didn't have a problem with A.J. Brown's comments. They weren't selfish. He's being real about what the problems are, and he's not dancing around the issue and being cryptic like RC alluded to. He's saying it directly, and we applaud him for that. But you know what I did, fellas? You know what I did, Mina and Shae, over the last 30 minutes or so? I recalled the comment that A.J. Brown put out just days after winning the Super Bowl. And I want to read this to y'all, and I want to know how this makes y'all feel. This is A.J. Brown just a few days on social media after winning the Super Bowl over Kansas City in February. Remember the Super Bowl, he had about 3 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown, right? After a few days, I've had time to reflect on being a champion. I tried to feel how everyone made it seem to be a champion, and unfortunately, it was short-lived. 2 days, to be exact. Laugh out loud. I've never been a champion at the highest level before, but I thought my hard work would be justified by winning it all. It wasn't. My thrill for this game comes when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it for me. It's when the DB drops his head and surrenders because he can't F with me. The intense battles, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices. I love putting smiles on people's faces, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It's the journey that I love the most. Back to work. Does that sound about the team, or does that sound about him?
I think the first thing is I was and have never played at as a higher level of A.J. Brown. Everybody who plays in the Super Bowl gets to sign a sheet before the Super Bowl that says, if you are the Super Bowl MVP, will you do the I'm going to Disney World? And everybody who signs it believes they have an actual chance to do it. When you walk into that game, you walk into that game to dominate. You walk into that game to leave a legacy. And when you're A.J. Brown and you have been as good and as important and as productive as he has throughout his career, that's what you expect of yourself. And I get it. For some people who are people like me, who I was always going to be a part of something great. I wasn't necessarily going to always be the reasons. There were days I was, but I was always going to be a part of something great. When we win a Super Bowl, I'm like, I'm a part of that. When Coach LeBeau is inducted into the Hall of Fame and he mentions my name, I'm like, I'm a part of that. When Troy calls me after he wins the Defensive Player of the Year and says, this is our award, I'm a part of that. A.J. Brown doesn't just want to be a part of something. He wants to be the reason something is the thing. And I don't have an issue with that. I'm not going to knock him for wanting to dominate. I'm not going to knock him for wanting to be great. And he even said, I tried to make this as great as everybody said it was, but I don't feel that way. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that's selfish. I don't think that's individualistic. I think that's a man who has the capabilities and the foundational talents to be a Hall of Famer and one of the greats to do what he does. And when you don't produce at that level, that's an individual battle and fight that you got to fight at your house by yourself. So I have no problem with those statements. And I think it is continuing to bleed into what's happening now. Because he said, the championship made me try to deal with it. Our team playing at a high level made me try to deal with it. They're no longer playing at that level. So now that level of frustration individually is now being reflected by how your team is producing on the field as well.
Yeah, so Stephen A., to answer the question about your quote, and I love the quote, I think AJ's speaking as a man rather than a football player. Like, men were just created to chase. We're created to have passion. We're created to have adventure and challenge. And I don't think AJ is strictly talking about it from a receiver perspective. He's talking about it from, like, to his core perspective. I think it's the heart of who he is. And we talked about this a little bit last week. The reality is, like, the trophy doesn't fill it. It just doesn't. You can do all the work and you can reach the top. And then when you get there, you realize that's not necessarily what you were chasing. What you were chasing was adventure. What you were chasing was challenge. What you were chasing was being the very best version of yourself. And that doesn't have an ending point for a person like A.J. Brown. I don't think it should for all people. And I think the reality is, and it's specific to sports, Stephen A., is when you give the type of sacrifice and work necessary and you get there, what he's saying is like, that wasn't the best part. Mm-hmm. The whole process of having to answer to myself on a daily basis is the best part.
Cam Newton brought up and made noise on First Take when he talked about months ago, you know, the league MVP not giving that back,
Right.
wanting that individually more than, the Super Bowl championship, stuff like that. And that was a whole big headline because of that. That's number one. So this kind of makes you think about that just a little bit, number one. And number two, I have no doubt that what RC and DO highlighted is 1,000% correct, and to contextualize to contextualize it and give that kind of perspective, it is right on point. But we may be sitting here in a few months and says, that ain't how Howie Rosen and the Eagles
sure.
look at it.
For sure.
A.J. Brown might be gone.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But it also, just to cap it off, it's also why team sports are so awesome. Because it takes all of those different people who are wired to be very much so like that in making us work.
But I was actually going to draw upon a comparison to the quote to like what Scotty Scheffler said not long ago.
1,000%.
When he said the same thing, like winning was exactly, and that's an individual sport. So it's hard in sport, period, I think.